Today, we wrap up our rankings reviews episodes with closers. And you know what? Closers actually quite a tricky position, so you're going to want to make sure you stay locked on for today's full episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Here, as always, with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Ane, and you can find him on Twitter at Matthew_Ane. If you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It will subscribe you to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. Or if you're listening on the audio side of things on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And guys, I keep saying it, but it is the truth. Give us a chance on the Subtext platform with your drafts right around the corner, coming up potentially this weekend, next, or the weekend after. You're going to need that secret weapon to get that competitive edge over your league mates. And Matt and I got you covered on the Subtext platform. You're going to get text message alerts right to your phone, offering so much more than we can in these 30-minute episodes, including but not limited to our 2025 rankings, sleepers, breakouts, and busts. And you can ask us all your keeper and dynasty questions there as well. And all right, Matt, we're moving into the final segment of our rankings review episodes. And of course, it's going to feature those closers. So Matt, why don't you throw our rankings up on the tubes for the people and get us started here?
Yeah, so one, I'm going to say thank God. It's getting a little stale. I am so ready to get into all our targets at the positions coming up of, must draft hitters, must draft pitchers, sleepers, breakout busts, all coming up on the forecast over the next couple weeks. And just for another, what's on the horizon, our My Guys episode, guys we can't leave the draft without. Something that you're not going to want to miss is all on the horizon as we get closer to draft day. But let's get into this. Let's wrap this up nice and well here. So my closers from 1 to 12, Devin Williams, Emmanuel, Clase, Josh Hader, Mason Miller, Edwin Diaz, Ryan Helsley, Jordan Romano, Felix, Bautista, Jeff Hoffman, Johan Duran, Ryan Walker, and Raisel Iglesias. Dom.
Yeah, so my top 12 is as follows. At 1, I have Emmanuel, Clase. 2, I have Devin Williams. 3, I have Mason Miller. 4, I have Josh Hader. 5, I have Edwin Diaz. 6, I have Raisel Iglesias. 7, I have Ryan Helsley. 8, I have Johan Duran. 9, I have Andres Munoz. 10, I have Jeff Hoffman. 11, I have Ryan Walker. And at 12, I have Jordan Romano. All right, Matt, know the routine at this point. And guys, if you're new around here or if you've been around for a little bit while, this is where Matt kind of takes a look at my rankings and he kind of starts pinpointing some question marks, potentially.
Yeah. So, I mean, here's the deal, right? I'm looking at your rankings. I'm looking at mine. And there's only a few guys that we have a mismatch of that, aren't in each other's rankings. And the biggest one for me, at least, is Andres Munoz of the Seattle Mariners. I'm not out on him, just not willing to start off with him as my, RP1 essentially. Can you maybe talk me into it? Because right now, presently, if we're going today, Munoz is sitting at as my 14th closer. And, maybe there's a way to get him in there.
Well, I'll say this, man. I think you're doing Munoz a little bit of a disservice. He's a very talented young pitcher. Had a little bit of ups and downs last year, but you know what? Overall, numbers look pretty good for last season. Had Paul Sewald around, which kind of threw a monkey wrench, but, he headed over to Arizona this year. It's Munoz's job. Let's not forget, he was an all-star last year, too. He made 60 appearances, had 22 saves, a 2.12 ERA. 59 innings, 77 strikeouts, and an 0.96 whip for Munoz. Kind of did take a little bit of a step forward, which we really hoped he would do. He did. And I think this year, 30 saves is not out of the question. He gets those big strikeout totals. The whip took a step in the right direction last year. He might not have that low 2s ERA, but even if it's a mid to high 2s ERA, I think we could live with that. He's got good stuff, got a good fastball. I really think at 27 years old, it could be a potential breakout year. The ADP on Munoz isn't outrageous. It's the 9th closer where I have him ranked. Me and ADP are in sync. pick 113. And I honestly feel like if you walk away with Munoz as your closer one and you waited, you're not in a bad spot. I honestly don't think you are. As I mentioned, he has good stuff, and I think it plays up pretty well. Could be a big strikeout number from, a closer that you're getting potentially, like I said, 30 saves from, good ratios. I don't think he's a bad option this year at all.
So, I mean, some of the things track and why I liked him so much last year, way like much greater K per inning, has the saves opportunities, but not as much. But the biggest thing I have going for him is just like certain months were just absolutely dreadful in certain categories. Like, right, like you look at August, he had a 5.4 ERA over literally 8 innings. So the 8 times he even got out there, which isn't a lot, he literally obliterated your ERA. Then even in September, he only fielded about 7 games, and he had a 3.52 ERA, which tells you about like two out of those, I don't know, 2 or 3 out of those 7 innings, he was pretty much smoked you out. And I had him last year, so it was pretty rough to own him at times. It'd be a real difference maker of your ERA essentially when he's getting blown the hell up. On top of that, you're counting on him to get the saves. He's not getting the saves. Now, even though, again, he was sharing some time, it's still just, it was unfortunate because it was his fault as to why he wasn't getting the saves. Then on top of that, in certain months, he had, a 1-2 whip. In August, he had a 1-2 whip. In June, he had a 1-4 whip. In April, he had a 1-2-5 whip. Like, it's not like he's been a picture of consistency. And, you look at the end of the season numbers versus if you really take a dive into him, and it kind of made me take a step back in terms of expectation. The only thing I'm looking for him for this year is consistency, not a bunch of really good performances spanned out over a couple months. I need consistency over the whole season for him to be valuable. So if he hits that 30 save mark, that's good. But let's hope he keeps those numbers down and not, have those ebbs and flows of hot and cold spells and ruin your season. That's why he's not in my top 12. I see your point. Yes, I believe in the talent, but the inconsistency for a month at a time, not week to week at a time, is big for me. So I have to kind of move on. If he's an RP2, that's where I'm really like, I would feel a lot better at.
I hear what you're saying. One quick final thought here on Munoz. So 2 quick final thoughts here. I think it's tough when you have somebody like Sewald breathing down your throat, who Sewald has been an established closer for a while. I don't think he ever felt really comfortable. I will say this, though. After Sewald left, he started to find a stride. I know you talked about, months, but those kind of, he had a really bad outing on August 20th where he gave up 3 earned runs. That kind of messes up his whole, August. But if you look at his last 12 outings where he pitched 11 innings.
I'm out.
He had
Paul Sewald wasn't even on the team last year.
He wasn't in Seattle at all?
He was in Arizona. He spent most of the year hurt. I didn't know why that didn't click on me. But yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so I guess
he was the only one in the show. He was the only show in town. Now you got me all mixed up.
Yeah, no, I guess I had myself mixed up there. Yeah, I guess
the inconsistency and the blown saves are all on him.
Yeah, no, Sewald moved on in 2023. Thank you, Matt, for the correction there. Yeah, so I guess it was more on him, but you know what? He still shined at the end of the season. He his last 12 outings, as I was mentioning there, he was really good over those 12 outings. He had a 3.18 ERA, 11 innings pitched, 19 strikeouts, sub-1 whip. Batters only hit 128 against him over that time. So I really like what Munoz brings to the table. Young, talented, and I think avoiding injuries or any other sort of setback, I think he could really shine this year. But I do see what you're saying about it was a little bit on him, ebbs and flows. I hope that he could find a little bit more consistency coming into 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the thing is too, like, okay, when you're getting the save attempts and you're blowing them, that's also one way to lose your job. And that is something that is also a world of possibility. Yes, he has a long leash going into the season, but if there's a bunch of blown saves like in April of last year, and they're seeing the repetitive, kind of thing from like carrying over into 2025, there is a world where they do go out and acquire somebody, or somebody else does start getting into the mix and becomes a committee, and then really destroys the value. So I feel even better about pushing him down. But you know what? Before we go on, we move on to the rest of our stuff. You're going to have to wait for that and see who Dom wants to pick apart in my rankings coming up after this. And looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious. Crack into that good source of protein with wonderful pistachios. Wonderful pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of daily value. Plus, they're packed with with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats that help keep you full longer. Personally, I love the no shell variety, and this isn't just the read part; it is really good. It's a perfect grab and go snack for a busy day, whether I'm snacking at my desk, on the road, or just a quick protein boost. That's always my go-to. And if you love cracking open the shells just for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite, and it is. Get snacking, get cracking with snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast Diamond Club on Subtext, your ultimate fantasy baseball draft companion. Look, there's draft tools out there, but there isn't a draft tool like this. Okay. You just get it pretty much. Here's my rankings, here's my sleepers, here's my breakouts, and then that's pretty much it. Make what you want. If you have any questions, guess what? You get direct access to us. That is what sets us aside from the other draft tools out there. Don't miss out as we get closer to draft season. I will not draft. As we get closer to the biggest draft weekend in the year, the rankings are going to be coming out more and more. So get ready for that. Now, Dom, I'm going to bring up the rankings again. What aren't you feeling in my wonderful, beautiful, spectacular, perfect rankings?
Well, when you put it that way, I mean, what can I say? I mean, they are so perfect.
Just that you're wrong, but yeah.
If I did have to notice one thing, someone that we have a notable difference on, we both have him ranked in here, but Raisel Iglesias, I got him at 6, you got him at 12. I believe ADP on Iglesias is 7. So why are you a little bit lower on Iglesias headed into 2025 season?
So as I fight to get this up and running, Iglesias going to the, sorry, I'm having a brain fart here.
Braves.
Yes, him being on the Braves definitely gives him a bump. I love that for us. Don't get me wrong, the 34 saves, all that wonderful stuff. You can't really hate it. To be honest, I have him at 12. That's got to change. He shouldn't be there. But I will say this. I still like him lower than I like Jordan Romano, Felix Bautista if he's healthy. But the difference is I do have a wrong ranking on that. A great call out. He's definitely not a better option than Hoffman, Duran, and Walker. So I will say there is definitely a clerical error on my rankings. Iglesias is absolutely fantastic. Look, sometimes I make mistakes. I just probably grabbed it from the wrong sheet because I update these probably daily. But yeah, Raisel Iglesias is my guy. Honestly, should be at least RP9.
Fair enough. I like the movement. I like the movement, live action here as we're doing it, guys. And that's, part of the reason that we do this, and the part of the reason you should be having these discussions with your friends, or, just anybody that you, even a coworker, sometimes coworkers that you may not necessarily play in the same league, you could always discuss baseball and,
definitely the wrong rankings.
Yeah. And you could kind of, you could kind of get the feel for where you're at and why maybe if you have to see a friend says, hey, why do you have this guy ranked where you do, you kind of might turn around and be like, you know what, I might have to adjust that one. So this is always a good practice. Matt, so I don't know if you see anybody that stands out on my side of things, as we we'll do a flippity floppity back the other way.
All right, tell me why you have Romano at 12 and not higher, because the opportunity on the Phillies is significant, and we've seen other guys that are older come into that position and still be very successful and finish as a top 8 RP. Like, somebody just left there recently and went to Baltimore, but thou should not be named. So tell me why you don't think that Romano, who I feel is better at this point in his career, and in a better state going into the Phillies lineup versus when thou shall not be named was put in there, the chicken wing. Go ahead.
So the thing is, I do like Romano a lot. Higher on him, I think than most. I'm definitely way higher than ADP. Or right now, Romano's coming off the board as the 22nd closer, pick 239. I think he's way more valuable than that. Just the reason that I will throw out why I'm a little bit skeptical. So even in 23, where he was healthy, All-Star had a great year. The WHIP was a little bit elevated. The FIP was a little bit higher than the ERA. Romano had a 2.90 ERA that year, 3.46 FIP. Strikeouts are always going to be pretty solid with Romano, but I think especially coming off the injury, I think the WHIP's going to be a little bit elevated. I think the ERA, I think we should be expecting closer to that low to mid threes ERA. Strikeouts are still going to be good, and I think the thing with Romano that we might be overlooking a little bit is even if there's a little bit of a hiccup, Matt, as over there in Philly, they like to play the closer carousel game. So I think Romano, I don't think the leash is going to be super long. They have Kirkling. They have I think Alvarado is still there, if I'm not mistaken. They just have a couple guys in that bullpen that can go out there and get saves too. That if Romano's not in top shape, I feel like they could move on and just a quick. So I do like him as a lower closer one. I definitely think you could, if you wait, and you grab him as your closer one, it's not the end of the world. I think he's a very high end closer two. Draft him with somewhat confidence, but don't walk away with him as if you take him as your closer one, I'm probably jumping back in the closer, probably if not the next round, the round after.
So the thing is, you don't have to take him as his one. Don't use rankings to decide where you're drafting. Rankings are there to decide who you're taking over. Now, if it just so happens you're able to get sick value on other players and you end up with Romano as your number one closer, that means the rest of your lineup is stacked out, and then you've done a fine job and gets out back in. Now, that is what it is. Now, with Romano, why I feel like I have him at my number 7, clearly not drafting him that way, but I'm getting in 2 RP1s and on my team. It's really how it is. Romano hasn't had a single season outside of his rookie year and the year he got hurt over 3. Honestly, he hasn't even touched a 3 ERA since his rookie season, and 2024 does not count.
I mean, just to preface it real quick, he's only had 3 seasons where he's thrown more than 15 innings.
Yeah, fair. But he's only been pitching for, we'll say 5 years. And the first year was his rookie year, and the second year, 20 was COVID. So you just take that out. He's had 3 full seasons as a full-out closer, and he's been absolutely bonkers. So, it still stands true. And if he didn't get hurt last year, he would have been just fine. So, anyway, he hits all the check marks except for the WHIP. Great K per inning. Keeps the ERA well down. You don't have to worry about blow-up games like Munoz. And even with him going from, a pretty, I would say, even Peg Park, not hitter friendly, not pitcher friendly park in Toronto, coming to Phillies that's more hitter friendly, I still think he's going to be just fine. Romano is just a great, pitcher in general, and I think he's going to be able to handle it. Now, yeah, even if he's not fully healthy, it takes him a little bit to get on the field. I'm still not worried because Alvarado just can't keep the job and can't find himself out of a paper bag. It's just one of those things where just like my guy is just as fast as he throws that ball, he can't seem to keep it. So he is somebody that the manager is going to mix in weird situations, but Romano's the guy. He's going to end up with 30 to 35 saves. It's going to 100% be there. The chicken wing had no problem, getting that many saves, even with Alvarado, Kirkling, and Hoffman there at the time as well, all getting reps over at the save opportunities. So Romano, who is younger, and I think, again, is in a better situation there now, is going to have no problems getting saves. So
fair enough. I mean, I don't really have too much else to say. I'm going to stand on what I said. I still think he's a good closer. I just wouldn't take him over some of the guys that you have him over, like specific. I like Jeff Hoffman a lot. I think Johan Duran is underrated there, and I know you said you get Iglesias over him, so I'll give you that one. But we're not super far off on him. I don't think at that point. If you move him down 1, I got him at 12. You got him at 8. Not too mad at that.
Yeah, but all right. Come out next. Now we'll start talking about who we like out of this. If you can't tell, I already kind of blew the load with Jordan Romano. But you can find out who Dom likes and some other targets I like coming up next. And all right. So, Dom, out of these guys, who we all have to walk away with an RP. Who is your favorite to target out of your top 12?
Well, I'll leave you somebody I know that you like. So I'll jump in here. We talked about Raisel Iglesias a little bit. He's kind of in that sweet spot of where I really like to jump in and grab my RP1. I think he's being a little bit underrated this year. Johan Duran's not a bad option. Big strikeout number potentially. He's somebody that I do like him a lot. I'll say this: if you want to jump in early, and you could get yourself a Mason Miller, Hader, Devin Williams. Clase is probably going too high than anywhere. I'll take him. But like I said, a lot of our listeners, a lot of you guys playing your home leagues, closers might not be going as early as industry drafts where you might be watching some industry mocks or some actual industry drafts that are going on at the moment. You're seeing closers go very high. You might be in your home league if you can get them later. If you can establish, 4 or 5 good hitters, you get yourself 3, 4, good starting pitchers, and those types of relievers are still out there. Start the closer run. Start it. I've done that, and I've kind of changed my strategy a little bit in closers over the past few years. I like to jump in and get me anywhere, I'd say, but 2 to 9, 10. I'm probably not waiting longer than that to get my first closer. I think that's a good strategy to apply. So it really depends who's there when you're jumping in. I'm not mad at anybody. Like I said, even to Romano at 12. Not mad at anybody there. If you're jumping in and you're getting one of these guys I have listed in my top 12 as your first closer, you're doing all right. If you're waiting a little bit, and I say you get anybody after, if you're in that Duran Munoz range, I probably want to jump back in and get another one quickly because you don't want to be, left holding the stick where you have a low end one closer and then you're going to have to jump in and grab like the closer 19, 20, 21. It's not going to work out very well.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. Duran is actually one of my favorite ones. If you've watched pretty much any mock draft, I almost get him every time. So when you said you were saving, I was quite confused when you picked Duran. But yeah, so thank you. I guess
I was thinking about Jeff Hoffman. I thought we were talking about Jeff Hoffman before it came out. I thought you were going to pick Hoffman.
It's all good. Just don't let it happen again. So I like Duran. The value's stellar. Everybody seems to forget about him, like Dom said. So I don't need to say much, but we all know I love Romano. But let's put it this way: if I decided to go early, I'm gonna flip it. And I really just want to pull the trigger. I feel like the last elite guy that I feel is going at a good price, that is, a little bit earlier from my standards, is Edwin Diaz. The frustration we had with Diaz last year, it gave him a little discount double check, and I'm kind of all about it. Diaz still is coming off the board quite high, but honestly, if Edwin Diaz was Edwin Diaz before he tore the Achilles 2 years ago and didn't deal with all the struggles from last year and just did what he did, he would be going much, much higher. Unfortunately, he just couldn't get it, but I think he's going to get it right. They're in a position where, they want to win. Diaz is motivated. I think the team as a whole, and he worked through it. He was successful in stints last year, and I think this is going to be a great bounce back year. We're going to see the good old Diaz, who was pretty much the RP1 for the longest time. So I wouldn't be surprised with 30 to 35 saves. Great, strike per inning, which last year alone he had 53 innings pitched and 84 strikeouts. That didn't disappear. Kept the whip low at a 104. Just ERA was a little inflated at 3.52, and I think he'll probably get that down to either low threes or even that sub 3 ERA where we're just so used to having. So Edwin Diaz, I feel, is the great value if you're looking for an elite stud guy to target early if that's what you're looking to do going in the drafts. So that's the guy I'm taking early if I had to.
Yeah, man, I like me some Edwin Diaz too. Got him ranked in the same spot as you, so I won't really add too much else. But let's talk some Jeff Hoffman then. If you don't want to take him, I'll take him. I like Jeff Hoffman. I think he's being undervalued. I know he's moving up a little bit, but still coming off the board fairly late right now. Fantasy Pros has him as the 19th relief pitcher according to their ADP. Pick 203. I think that's great value. He goes over to Toronto, has the closer job over there. and they're going to be a competitive team. A team like Toronto, the games they win are probably going to be fairly close. I think there's a lot of upside there. Hoffman has really found his stride in the last 2 years. Last 2 years combined, Hoffman has a 2.28 ERA over 122 games, 118 innings pitched, 158 strikeouts, and 0.94 WHIP. Just a guy that's being underrated at the closer position right now, and I think you could draft him as a closer one with confidence. Big upside here with Jeff Hoffman. Like Matt said, another guy could get you 30 plus saves.
Yeah, well said. I love Hoffman. I think he's going to be successful. When he pitched for the Phillies in those times, he was very reliable. Unfortunately, I'm the resident Phillies watcher because that's all I can get.
I do have this is a nitpicky question, but we have some time here.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you have Devin Williams over Emmanuel Clase? Is it a Yankee homer thing?
No, so here's the thing, right? Him coming over from the Brewers, I think, is a massive upgrade. I think that the saves opportunity is going to be bigger. Clase is phenomenal, and the Guardians went really far and did really great things last year, but the roster around them, I don't think has the potential to get him as many wins and get him over the threshold as Devin Williams. Even though I'm not the greatest fan of the Yankees lineup right now, I just think that as a whole, we're able to at least hold things down because our team is so complete. So I think Devin Williams is just going to have the better saves numbers. And honestly, too, they're both on par for, K per inning. ERAs are pretty much similar. It's really you're splitting hairs at this point. But I just feel like Devin Williams has been the best closer in baseball for the last 3 years. Let's put it this way. I'm not going to bet against the guy that has done that for the last 3 years that now gets an improvement in team and more opportunities to get him across the finish line in terms of saves. This could be a season where the dude gets 40 plus saves because of the opportunities.
I'll say this. I'll give Devin Williams 2023, but I think if you're looking at last year in 2022, I think Clase had him by at least a little bit. Clase was just so dominant last year. I don't see how I could put anyone else over him. Clase last year, 0.61 ERA, 74 games, 47 saves, 74 innings. Strikeouts took a little bit of a dip at 66, but you still take the 0.65 WHIP over that big amount of innings. So yeah, I will say this: if you want more of the strikeout upside, I think you go Williams. If you want more of the ratios, you go Clase. So I do like the solid argument behind your Devin Williams placement, but I think Clase is just a little bit better.
Yeah, to each his own. That's why it's like I said, it's splitting hairs.
Of course, it is. It truly is. I was nitpicking you on that one.
Yeah. So I wanted to update the graphic behind us for everybody because it's actually really bothering me. I used rankings from a while ago. So I'm getting that updated. So originally I have having Iglesias actually sitting at 6, right and even with you.
Oh, there you go. Perfect. I like that.
Just so everybody knows. So yeah, this is the real rankings for me. I pulled it from a month ago, where it was not really finished. So my bad. It's called Mac. Let the older Mac computers still get updated with the new phones, and everything would be fine. But anyway, I'm done complaining. Tim Cook. All right. Anyway, let's get back to baseball. So, look, Dom, I'm going to say this. We have a little bit of an interesting switch as well. I mean, if we're going to split hairs here, let's split hairs. Mason Miller over Hader. What's up with that?
Yeah, so I kind of took the young gun over the old vet. I was a Hader owner last year. I actually had Hader the last 2 years in a couple of leagues. Was excited to have him last year, but he went over to Houston and, he kind of had, I want to say, a mediocre season for his standards. 3.80 ERA. The strikeouts were there with 71 innings, 105 strikeouts, 34 saves, and 0.95 WHIP, which was still great. I just think the age is catching up with Hader a little bit. He's going to be 31 this year. I think Houston gets a little bit worse with the loss of Kyle Tucker. They didn't really, I know they got Paredes and, maybe a couple other guys there, but I still don't think it makes up for the loss of a guy like Tucker. Don't think he'll have as many save opportunities, and I think it's going to go opposite for, Mason Miller over there with the Athletics. Big, strong guy, 6'5", 200 pounds, has that monster fastball. last year, in his 55 games, he had 28 saves, 2.49 ERA, 65 innings, 104 strikeouts, and an 0.87 whip. So strikeouts, he was better than, Hader. ERA, he was literally better Hader at everything pretty much last year if you look across the board. And I think the talent's just going to shine for the 26-year-old Mason Miller this year. I think next year he might be in the talks for, potentially the closer one.
So, I mean, yes, I'm a Miller fan. Miller's number 4 for me. We literally have him swapped. My thing about it is, like, Hader's just done it for so long too, and he gave a lot of hard contact last year. And that could have been the difference maker, in all honesty, as to why his ERA was so inflated. He also doesn't have the protection of, San Diego anymore, which he might have taken for granted. I think, a guy that's had pretty decent, hard contact deflation in his past, maybe not elite, but enough, and not as low as last year, can make that adjustment and kind of go back to the standards. I mean, the guy is so good. 31 isn't that old for a pitcher. You start talking 34, 35, like other players in this in this, rankings, then we could start talking about that. But Hader's been so good. I just, you can't write him off for that. And that's why I'm going to just stick with Old Reliable over Miller, and just the team situation. Even with the loss of Tucker, they're still an organization that knows how to win. And, that small ballpark for Miller also is going to come into play. And his ERA might be inflated because he's now going to the AAA park. So, there's a couple things going against him, but I still think he's going to be fantastic. If you have nothing else to say, I'm going to get us out of here.
Yeah, go for it, brother.
So, guys, please like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, do everything you can to share this podcast, because we love doing it week in and week out. So, do that for us. And when you're done, set us up and, check out our boy Soli over at Locked On MLB, giving you real baseball coverage. And forgot to do it today, ran out of time. But tomorrow, stay tuned, and we will be talking about listener league spots. Peace out, guys.